having to live with the fact that you'll never see your father again. I remember because of this anger, I once said this sentence that my father to me is dead. So that I tried to create this imagination that I don't have a father and there's no father that exists within me. But the gap and that wound was still hurting. Hello guys, I am Mogale Molala. I am 23 years of age. I grew up in Mostorlos, Sikukune, Limpopo, before relocating to Lebakgomo in 2016. So I studied at Tlhotlong Primary School, went to Kubane Higher Primary School, then St. Bradens in Botlokwa, which was a boarding school. And then therefore, right now I'm doing my third year in financial information systems. In my upbringing, everything went well. I think we were what we right now call the perfect family kind of vibes. Up until 2004, when my mom was pregnant with my sister back then, I started to notice different changes. I started to see things from a different light. I started to see that there's a bit of tension happening within our home. So one time I remember this moment when I went to ask my mom, why are you crying? And he said, no, I'm not crying. Old people don't cry. But I was troubled. It kept on repeating in my mind that, but why was she crying? Because the truth is, by that time she was pregnant with my little sister. Fast forward things, she gave birth. Everything went well. I was so happy. Firstly, I'm gonna have a sibling in the longest time. I've been alone for 7 years and now I'll have someone to play with. The entire township was happy because back then in my hood, when a child is born, it was a big thing. So we were happy to have her. Fast forward things, in 2006, there was right now another tension that I did not understand within the household. And to my realization, I remember this one night when my mom said, Mogale, pack your things, we're leaving. And before that, I had a lot of shouting happening in the back room. And I thought to myself, maybe it's just adults matters. But when he said let us pack, it was around 10 p.m. I was so surprised. Why are we leaving this time of the night? And it's a weekend. And who are we going? Either way. So we went home. I started to have this curiosity of what's really happening within my household. To my realization, there was right now a divorce settlement and a custody battles. So they were going in and out of court. A lot of information was shared, such as I was told that right now your parents are divorcing, and then up to a point where right now the court reached a decision that Mogale, as an elderly brother, you will have to choose between who you stay with between your mom and your dad. And I thought to myself, how insane is this? How can a child who grew up within two parents right now have to choose between her mom and her dad? I went and I chose my mom. But the night before that, my father came with my all-time favorite car, Toyota Fortuner. I was so excited that firstly, I'm going to climb my dream car for the first time. Secondly, I'm going to get that feeling of how it feels to be rich, because my father back then, during that time, he had all the money. And me having to choose between money and to stay with a teacher, it was something else. No, most especially because now you're going to go through that classy name or fancy name in the hood. They call you a cheese boy now because your father is earning well. You start to see all these fancy cars and stuff like that. So on that particular night, my mom came and said, son, let us watch a movie. I was so curious. For the first time, my mom wants us to watch a movie. What is the movie all about? And then she showed me a movie called Oh My Son, a Nollywood movie, where in a nutshell, they show you of how a stepmom was abusing the stepson after his mom's passing. And then from there, I watched, and then he cried. She cried and said to me, Mogale, it's not that I'm trying to scare you, but I'm just trying to make you look at life from a different angle. I'm not saying your stepmom is going to abuse you, but just in case these kind of things happen, I just want to prepare you for that you need to prepare and expect the unexpected. That night I never slept, crying, trying to reach a decision between who do I choose. Do I go on with my dream of becoming a cheese boy and go with my father, or do I go with settling down in this home? But finally, because of my mom's ways of saying, no, Mogale, I as your mom will never leave you nor forsake you, I love you so much and I will never stop loving you. Because of that sentence itself, I decided to choose love. So after I chose my mom, the issue then became that I will never see my father. So I will see my father by mistake when we're going to town, maybe. Maybe he will be going through, we'll be passing each other on the way and stuff like that. But not to actually have a sit and talk. So I started to experience now the loneliness. And when I'm saying this because by then I was beaten almost each and every day because of I'm playing soccer. And I couldn't understand that because I was one of the best goalkeepers at my school, to an extent that my teachers will even call my mom, hey, come and see your son. But she never pitched. And that to me was hating at that particular time, because if my teachers were so excited to watch me play soccer, why can't my mom just provide at least an hour or a minute to come and watch me? Most especially because every time when she goes home, she passes the soccer field. And I could not understand why even a single moment didn't she just sit just a minute just to watch? But this son of mine, every day they're calling me to say, come and watch your son. What is he doing? So it went on, and I've started to right now feel the gap that actually there's no father figure in my life, and my mom is always beating me and stuff like that because of, it's either I came home late from a soccer practice, which of course I never had any control over because there's a coach that said no, you can go home or not. So I couldn't get that, and I started to develop the anger. It went on, and I felt like maybe I'm not loved because each and every day I'm being beaten for doing what I love. It went on up until a point where right now things start to get to me. When I went to boarding school in 2012. And I started to realize that actually I have daddy issues. And how I realized that is because that I started to have symptoms of ulcer, which I had back then when they were divorcing. And this was due to stress that my mom and my dad were putting me under, having to choose between the two parents and having to live with the fact that you'll never see your father again. I remember because of this anger, I once said this sentence that my father to me is dead. So that I tried to create this imagination that I don't have a father and there's no father that exists within me. But the gap and that wound was still hating, because I was going in and out of hospital. I couldn't get help because by then they were saying there is no way a child could have ulcers. Because firstly, it must be due to stress or alcohol. And by that time, it didn't make sense that a kid has stress. So when in and outside of hospital trying to get help, which I never couldn't. I remember a point where I stayed in hospital for 3 months, just monitoring my progress and stuff like that, giving me Panados and water just to make sure that I'm okay. They even recommended counseling. I went. I thought I was okay back then, but it hit me later. Because when I was then at boarding school, I felt like everybody is just throwing me off. Because firstly, it was my father that left me. Secondly, it's my mom, who right now joins my father and and throws me in the boarding school. And from home to where I was schooling, it was about 4 or 5 hour drive. So when parents came during weekends to see their kids, I always admired that, but I knew that I could not have that because every time I will call to say, and they will say, no, Mogale, you know how much petrol it costs us to come and see you. So that was hating. I started right now to be involved in multiple relationships, seeking attention, love, and affection, because that was what I was not getting from home. Thinking at the back of my mind that the more girls I love or the more girls I become involved with, the more it become easy for me to feed that void that my father left me. To a point where they even gave me a name of mastermind because of how I was able to manage these things around, that they will never catch me and stuff like that. So it went on for my entire boarding duration. And when I arrived at varsity, I was like, I want to re-establish my life. That's when I came to Pretoria, Tshwane University of Technology to be specific. I thought I want to re-establish my life, but then instead of becoming better, things went worse. I started to experience rest life, and it went on. Now I'm the one who's hosting parties. I'm the one right now who's calling all these ladies, who's calling all this and calling all that. I remember the first thing I bought was Habli. Started right now to be smoking Habli, always making parties on Fridays and stuff like that. So it went on for a period of a year, and until I lost funding. When I lost funding, reality kicks in. Mogale, you need to right now start to focus on your academics. And then they gave me a lecture to say, no, Mogale, right now you're starting to waste our money. We took you to school and you are failing. And I remember I was trying, as I was saying, I was trying to feed in that void. So the more attention I was getting, I felt human. The more people were attracted to me, or the more people started to speak about me, to me it was that moment that at least there are people that care about me, or so I thought. So all of these factors made me right now to become vulnerable. I didn't want to be by myself, as I said. I remember at 2017, I started right now to go through depression. And I called my mom and said, no, mom, I went to the doctor and apparently I'm experiencing depression. And that's when they gathered the family, they did a family meeting to say, no, Mogale, the issue is now you are spoiled. You don't appreciate the things that we're giving to you. And we've been telling you that your father does not love you. And at the back of my mind, I always had this thing that, but how can a person give birth to you or give you life and not love you? It didn't make sense to me. And the stories that I heard about him, such things such as, I remember they said, no, your father's a bad person, she doesn't love you, he tried to poison you, he tried to do this. To me, they didn't make sense, because this person is the one person who understood me, gave me even little things, such as going for hiking, such as going in bath in the river. Those kind of small things meant a lot to me, because I'm a person that loves nature. And that was one person that was able to give me that. So when they said this person does not love you, it didn't make sense to me. It was a family meeting. They were lecturing me of how I'm failing. They were lecturing me of, even right now, who do I think I am? That's when I started my speaking career. Who do I think I am? What have I achieved to think that I can go and speak to people? I remember 2 years down the line, I went to speak at a Father's Day event. And I showed them the video to say, look, I was invited to speak in the church at the Father's Day event. And they said, no, these people have time. Who can listen to a young boy like yourself? And that hit it hard. And when it hit it hard, I said to myself that, you know what, as much as these people, they are my family, I will love them from a distance. But right now, things started to become worse rather than better when I started to experience stepfathers coming into the picture. When they started to come into the picture, when you realize that this person wants to play a father figure in you, and you give them that chance, but in fact of delivering, they start to disappoint you. And when that happened, I remember I called my mom to say, you see what your person is doing. I've been saying for 12 months, the only thing I've asked was a shoe, and to say 50 rand. And right now he cannot deliver. And my mom was under pressure to at least buy me those shoes, because she cannot afford to disappoint me. And at that particular time, I remember one where the girlfriend that I was dating at that time was even planning to leave me. And when that happened, I felt like right now I'm all alone, because it's either people are judging me for who I am, or it's either they're always cheating on me, or it's either these people, they're going to leave me for some very weird reasons. Then I decided to take my life. And I had a lot of pills then, because I was going through depression, it's ulcer pills, it's painkillers and stuff like that. So I just took almost 5 of every pill and tried to drink them with an intention that I will commit suicide. By God's grace, that never worked out. I think about 6 hours down the line, I woke up. And when I woke up, I was so angry, because to me, I never wanted to wake up. So I decided that, you know what, since I'm alive, I'm gonna take them again. I took right now all of those pills and drank them. Woke up 8 hours down the line, I was so weak. I couldn't do anything, and that girlfriend, which was an ex by then, came and rescued me. So she came and offered food for me to eat. She came and then she even gave me water, I remember. And I was so embarrassed by that time. But I was glad that at least there's somebody that still cares about me. And there's somebody that at least does not judge me. Because my family was judging me to say, who do you think you are to become a speaker? What have you achieved? What are you going to say to people? But at least right now, there's somebody who saved my life. So that gave me a reason enough to go for counseling. I went for counseling for the first time. It never worked out because I was never ready for that. I went for the second time. And when I went there, I remember this lady said to me, Mogale, what do you want? Never mind the world exists. Never mind your mom, never mind your father, never mind anybody, but what is it that you want? And frank enough, I never had an answer to that. Because for my entire life, I've been living up to people's expectations and standards. That I will never do this because my mom will say this. I'll never do this because my family will be embarrassed. I'll never do this because of this and that and that. And in the process of me always doing that, I end up losing myself. And that's when I started right now to re-establish myself and wanting to share my story with the rest of the world, most in particular, to share my story with other men out there. And when I started doing that, the least I expected of them was to support me, which never happened. So I started to experience a lot of strangers who came to my life and offering help. I remember the first stranger is the guy that I met at the railway station by the name of William Baloi, who said to me, you know what, Mogale, you must stop being apologetic about who you are. You need to be brave and own your ground. And when he said this, it kept me going. And now and again, he will call me and say, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And to me, it was a reminder that at least there are people that are caring about me. So I went and stayed in my own place, continuing speaking my speaking career, even enrolled in NLP and master practitioner, so that I can help people and inspire them. Because one of my greatest lessons was I always need to be the change that I want to see in people. And because of my own experience, I told myself that no one will ever go through either similar or the same experience that I'm going through. So after enrolling in the NLP and master practitioner, everything went well. I started to coach people for free and started to have different sessions with them. And I started to fall in love with the coaching career. And back in 2017, when I had troubles and tribulations, I would write them down. So after writing them down, I compiled a book titled The Untold Truth About Pain, How to Turn Our Pain into Power, which simply shares more in detail about my story and how I managed to turn my story into power. And one thing I like about it is the fact that it's a continuous book. Like right now as I'm speaking, I'm busy doing the second edition of it, which I will publish later this year or next year. That is a bit or all about me. Hey guys, I'm Mogale Molala and I've been through the most.